So this will be an interesting one. He's won 50 tournaments. He is a bait designer, and he is not afraid to run his mouth. Todd Castledine joins me this week on...
I'm Bob Cobb from the Bassmaster. Welcome to Mercer.
Okay, so you guys know the drill. Welcome one, welcome all, friends, family, freeloaders, fishing freaks, and of course you, my humpers. Happy hump day to all of you, and welcome into the Awkwardly Honest Fishing Podcast that goes by my last name, which is Mercer. This is the 233rd edition of the Mercer Podcast, and I hope wherever you're watching or listening from, that life is treating you well. This week's show is going to be a fun one. This may be the collab you never knew you needed, and maybe the world didn't need, but we have a very, very fun conversation, and we cover some stuff. But one thing's certain, if you take two people who basically move the hole that makes the words for a living and you put them on one podcast, you're going to end up with a very long episode, and that's exactly what we have here this week. But as I always say, you can't cut a good conversation short, and I hope you enjoyed this one. So rather than me babbling along, let's just jump right into it. And we are going to Texas to hook up with the one and only Todd Castledine. Todd Castledine, this is it's a different podcast for me. I mean, a lot of times the people I have on, I have long-standing relationships with. Me and you have literally had one long conversation in our life, and it was over a disagreement at the time, but we worked it out, and here we are.
I think, and I actually apologized, which my wife is probably, if she heard this right off the bat and something, she'd be like, what? No, because I remember when I got that message from you, I'm like, oh, that has nothing to do with you. I was like, that's my fault. I lumped you into, you got lumped. I didn't lump you in. You got lumped into something I was talking about. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you were far from what I was talking about.
Yeah. Well, that's the freaking internet, dude. You talk about anything and it's like all of a sudden you must mean this. So, hey, we got along, but I've been wanting to do this with you for a while. And I appreciate you making time to do it. Your life, dude, is so different. Like, you just went through what you had to do today. Like, you do, your routine is no freaking routine. Like I can imagine what my brother's doing today at his job, or what's even a pro angler. Like, I can imagine what Lee Livesey's doing today. If I think about you on any given day, I'm like, Lord knows what Todd Castledine is up to. I just know at some point he's going to be on YouTube. And so what is your life like?
It was not always. So before all this, it was like fishing. And when I say that, I just made a living fishing. Like 95% of my income was fishing tournaments and making money from those tournaments, right? Like, I had, like, my taxes looked like expenses and then tournament winnings. And that was the money I made, not like 95 for 10 years. So for about an 8 to 10 year period, I think I fished 44 to like 48 tournaments a year. I mean, it was like, I was usually driving from one tournament on a Saturday to one on a Sunday, from Toyotas and Opens. If I didn't make the cut, to Saturday, then to Sunday on another lake. And I did that for just trying to get by. And that led to fishing the tour for 2 years with Costa and everything. And my fishing partner now, Russell, we both did that for 2 years. And then when MLF bought out Costa, we both left. Costa left. There were some companies that left because they didn't like the direction of some things going. And that was, so I qualified for the elites a long time ago and turned it down. And then I qualified for the tour like every year, and just, it didn't make sense to me. And then Costa got on board, and it was awesome for 2 years. Like, loved every minute of it. Couldn't wait to do it. Like, fought hard to try to do it again. But when I left I'm like, oh, here we go again. Now I'm back to 40 something tournaments a year. And I went and qualified for the Opens, or tried to qualify through the Opens, but I fished all 9 Opens. That last year on tour, which I was big time against, they made us go get GoPro cameras. And I had no idea what I was doing. And I was like, I don't want to film this. And anyways, long story short, I ended up doing all this stuff, zero intention of making YouTube. Thought YouTube was the dumbest thing in the world. Why would anyone show what they're doing? Like, especially me, being this secretive guy about fishing. And here I am now, the last event at Lake of the Ozarks, showing parts of my practice before the event. And I even called myself an idiot. Like, how stupid can I be? And, but it was the best decision I ever made. A lot of hard work, more work than I ever thought I'd do, but it's opened way more doors and gave me way more. YouTube will imprison you because of the algorithm but at the same time, it's made me more freer than ever to go do whatever I want to do in fishing and do stuff to a degree. So I didn't answer your question. So I went, what did I do today? I tested baits. I tested baits for Strike King today from 7 to 9, went to a meeting at 10, got home, made my YouTube about some Garmin stuff and live scope. And then I had to make a video for Strike King for some testing stuff. And then now I'm on a podcast, and it is what it is. And we're halfway through the day.
Yeah. So before all of this, was this a plan, or is your entire life kind of like, I look at my life and I'm like, it's just all a means to an end. It's like, there was a point in my life where I was like, I'm going to have to be a real life adult, and I need to figure out a way to keep fishing. Like, did you ever plan I'm going to make my living for, like, yes. How did you end up, like, was it all laid out in your head?
Yes. Well, it was, so back then there was no game. No one told me how to become a professional fisherman. Right. And when you're younger, and I do a lot of YouTube videos about this, and some people get it, some people don't. I did it a lot when I first started. I saw people fishing the elites, and I didn't really know how did you get there? And when they were talking about some guy who doesn't own a boat walking the bank, that's a long journey. That's that's make-believe stuff. And so when I started fishing tournaments, with, like, the first time I ever fished was with this guy, Mark Malone, who saw me walking the bank when I was like 15 or 16. And we went and fished tournament, came in second. And that's how the tournament stuff started. And fished with high school buddies. One of my high school buddies to this day, I went and hung out with the other day, went dove hunting with. Me and him fished forever. And it just figuring out how to fish tournaments with people. That's what we did. And fairly successful, like, making money at it. And when I got into college, I was like, well, college is just this thing you go to, right? I knew I wasn't going to college for anything. That 4-year plan wasn't going to be for something later, but that's what we did back then, kind of. And so I did it, but I really didn't want to be there. I had a blast. I had way too much fun.
What did you take in college?
Well, I went to SFA, and I picked SFA only because I'd never heard about it. It was an hour and a half from my house, but it was right next to Rayburn and Toledo. And I'd never fished Rayburn and Toledo, but I'm like, if I want to go anywhere, that's as close as I could get to a lake besides where I'm at. And so I was like, I just chose that school. I'm still here now. And I was like, I'm going to be biologist, right? That's cool. And then I got in there, and I think at orientation, they're like, hey, by the way, a lot of this is for pre-med students. And I'm like, oh, scratch that off. And so I'm like undecided, which is general business. And so I got stuck into general business and then hated it. Didn't like any of it. I liked the marketing part of it. I did like that. And then I just started, I was still driving back home to fish tournaments on Livingston and Conroe and other things like that. And then around my dad passed away in like 2006. Around that time, I was starting to fish Rayburn a little bit more and more, and then decided to just start fishing. And I was working at Papa John's all through college, and Papa John's, I'd worked there for so long that I could make any schedule I wanted to. So for a couple of years, man, which was well after I should have been gone out of college, I was there working at Papa John's, halfway managing, taking off every weekend for years and fishing tournaments. And so I started eventually looking at it going, okay, I can make enough money fishing tournaments pretty good. By about 2009, 2010, I was pretty much on my own and did it. When I say on my own, I didn't have to work anymore. It was just straight tournament. I could make enough doing tournaments. And I did that for 8 or 10 years. And then it's taken that long to get, like, I didn't know I still don't even know what 10 years from now looks like. But over the years, I've learned how to acquire money. And I didn't like the sponsorship thing. The sponsorship, I saw guys getting sponsorships and getting wrap boats every other year. And this is going to sound bad, Dave, but it felt like, they tricked one other guy. Like they tricked someone to wrap their truck and boat for a year or two. And now they got to figure out how to trick someone else. I know that sounds bad, but that's what I was looking at.
I get what you're saying. That's definitely there's a lot of those things. I mean, there's everybody searching for the famous, I just need a guy who's looking for write-offs. As a business owner, I don't think anybody's searching for write-offs, to be honest.
But there's people out there. Dude, I know of there were times where I'd be fishing back home and a guy that I fished against all the time went and fished the tour, went and tried to do all this stuff. And they're like, man, it really used to piss me off. They'd be like, come on, man, Todd, you would be fine out here. And I go, yeah, man, where's my 50 grand? Like, you got someone paying your way and you're like, yeah, but even if I wouldn't, I have this guy. And I'm like, and so I get very irritated with when I see people and hear people and I know what happened and how I wouldn't say made it, but how they got into it. And I wish I didn't hold it against them, but it was this weird thing that I'm going, man, I never had that guy come out and say, hey, we're going to pay for you to go do all this stuff. And so I got this very kind of chip on my shoulder, like I'm going to just go do it all on my own. And now the sponsors that I have, man, I've had them for years, and we have and they'll all tell you they don't pay me. Like I don't get like this crazy amount of money for them. The last one I got has been one of the best ones. And I said, hey, I'll just give me product and I'll show you what I can do. And I said that they're like, come on. I'm like, seriously, I don't want any money from you. Give me 6 months. And 6 months later, they're like, you're one of our top sellers, if not the top. And so I was like, hey, man, because I feel like if you can do it that way, then I got someone for a long time, not just for a year or two.
Yeah. Yeah. You're impacting their business in a real way. I mean, they don't want to turn that tap off.
Right.
How did you had opportunity to fish the elites, you fished a tour for a few years, but you're part of a very rare group. Like, I look at you, I look at Jeff Coble. There's a group of guys that like really have made a big impact in this sport without chasing the tour thing for a very long period of time. Why was that just circumstances, or did you look at it and be like, yeah, I don't want that?
Circumstances at points. I mean, every year, and I made a video about this the other day, like every year I look at the schedule and like, okay, what's my best opportunity to make money? It was always that way. And in fishing, because it makes me mad. Those people, and they're correct in this statement. A lot of people go, hey, like 90% of people, when you look at it, 90% of fishermen, if you take what they spent at the beginning of the year and what they made at the end of the year, didn't make money. Like, I don't care if it's the local level or the elite or whatever it is. and I completely take sponsorships out of it, because I think sponsorships are, to me, someone put it to me this way one time. If someone was like, hey, I need $30,000 for entry fees next year, right? And someone gives you $30,000, I'm like, oh, so you spent $30,000 in entry fees. They're like, no, I got a sponsor to pay for it. I'm like, no, they gave you $30,000 and you decided to take $30,000 that you have and then spend it on entry fees. Now, you could have spent $30,000 towards your house. You could have spent $30,000, but you decided to put it towards entry fees. That's still kind of your money that you're giving away to them. And then you made 40 grand. You profited 10 grand off that $30,000 investment. That you risked 30 grand to make 10 grand. And I know people don't look at it that way, but I always did. And so I always looked at it that way. And then I always thought I wanted to be in the elites and the tour. And at one point in time, I really did. But I'll be honest with you, because I was thinking about, like, even this year, like if someone asked me like how much money I made, the money I make less now than I did 10 years ago. I fish less, right? Less tournaments, but the prize money is not better. It's the everything, expenses and everything's gone up, but the prize money is not better. And for a while with the elites and FLW back, what was it, 10, 15? I mean, they were, what was the classic? Was it 500,000 at one time?
500 and the FLW championship was $1 million. I mean, one year they gave $1 million to the guy who won fantasy fishing. Like, I also wonder about that. And I'd love to hear your theory on this, because people ask that question, why can you look back and be like, it was this, but it's still this. And that $100,000 is really less if you look at it in today's standards. Yeah. But I always wonder, like, I know at one time when ESPN owned Bass, they were losing $16 million a year. I have no idea how much FLW was losing, but they were losing lots. Everybody knew that. Like, I mean, that.
Right.
So I always wonder if our industry long-term, as much good as came from then, and it was incredible I mean, as a fan, I was like, what's new? Like, friggin' Hulk Hogan's at tournaments. There's stuff like, it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And they, it was such a weird time. You had a billionaire who was partnered with the world's largest retailer, who was battling with the worldwide leader in sports. And they were willing to, they were trying to win the war. But I always wonder if we're still trying to recover from that.
So are you saying, did they go out there and trick them?
I don't know that they.
Right. Because my deal is this: if they had done it in a way, and this isn't faulting anyone. Like, I wasn't smart enough back then, and sure, probably not smart enough now. But if there was a way for both, and this is the way I look at sponsorships, that should be like, if I tell someone, I'm like, hey, look, I'm here and you're here. If we come together and we both grow, we're good. Like, there's never going to be a problem with us. But if I come here asking for this much money and I deliver on this much, right, then you're going to have the salty, like, you're going to be salty about it. And I would be too. Did we go too big too fast? And then they looked at it and going, this was not worth the return. And then we kind of like shot ourselves in the foot. Maybe.
I don't think you can deny that, but I guess I don't know that anybody was trying to trick anyone. I just think it was like they were trying to put each other out of business. Like, literally, Irwin Jacobs was like, we're going to pay $1 million, and $1 million is going to get everyone to come here. And we're going to pay. And then Bass paid. Like, I think it's wrestling wars all over again, but it can only be sustained for a certain amount of time. And I think that time has kind of come and gone, and that sport, I mean, you always want it to continuously grow. But that's also part of the detriment. Let's be honest. Like, with all these videos that you see in the internet about this, and I mean, it's limitless. I mean, the truth of it is there's way too many pro anglers. Like, I mean, if you look at it back in the day, like, even at that height, there was let's say 50 guys to 75 guys at FLW that were really drawing from the industry, and the same at Bass, and that's it. Well, you have tours now that are 150, and then there's limitless tours. Like, I mean, would you be shocked if there's another tour that shows up in a year? No, they're just going to keep coming.
I have said this from day one that I've gotten a little bit of pushback from people because of my stances on things, and from anglers, which is the anglers are the wildest ones, because I push so hard for some of these pro anglers, and I'm not one of them. But I honestly think if our industry would be phenomenal if we had 100 pro anglers and that was it.
Oh,
and if one good trail, 100 pro anglers, because my whole theory on that was, I don't believe there's we're the only sport that people try to define what a pro angler is, because we have like 10 different definitions of what a professional angler is. I never call myself a professional angler, although everyone was like, dude, you might be the most one because you actually make money fishing. I'm like, yeah, but whatever. I could care less. So when everyone asks me what I do, I say I fish for a living. I never say I'm a professional fisherman. Could care less about that. But if there was 100 guys, if you made it to that 100th guy, you should make money. Like, that's what you should be making. And I've always pushed for that. If that was the case, I would stop everything what I'm doing right now and go try to be that guy and go try to qualify for whatever that is. But that's not the case. So I'm sitting here. I look at it because I was thinking about this before I was going to do this podcast. This sport, I don't want to change subjects, but this sport's getting younger, right? I think there's on one side, one reason for that. And no one will ever tell me differently. And we can get into that. The other side is all these guys that are fishing, like, they got the EQs going on right now. I would love for y'all to tell me what the average age for that is. Like, what the average age, because when I fished around my house and everything like that, I was one of maybe, if there was 200 guys in the event, I was maybe one of 5 that was in the 20s. In their 20s.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, growing up, I was a weirdo. I was like,
right.
You're into like everybody who tournament fished was a weird, like, I mean, I got along with people, don't get me but people didn't understand. You want to be a tournament, like, it just wasn't. And now, a lot, like, depending on where you're from, if you live where you live, every high school has a kid who's trying to do that.
Right. Which is fine, but I was 20 something years old. I didn't have a brand new boat till I was 30. I had won 3 or 4 and sold them for money. And then we won a big enough, won a big enough one. We won the one so nice and everything that I couldn't get, like, I was like, and it was at the right time. So it was the right time to actually get the right one at the right time, the one we won. So, but before then, so I'm out of a 10-year-old boat fishing all these events. I mean, I qualified out of a 10-year-old boat in the elites when I did it. But now I didn't know anyone at 21. Like, when I was at college, I knew no one with a boat. I knew no one. And now there's college kids. I mean, I live in a college town. They all got these boats around, and we didn't have that. And now, is it a money thing? Is it whatever it is? Those guys, that just wasn't a thing. So I think there's just way more of them, of just younger generation. And then I do think, life scope has definitely changed. And I'm full on board with having the life scope. Like, it's whatever with me. So, I mean, but because I have my own thoughts on that, no one will ever tell me any different. I do it enough. It's a different learning curve. It's a different everything.
Today's high-tech fishing world can be a real pain in the neck, especially if you're running the wrong mount. Beat Down Outdoors, they bring the graph to you. And they support this podcast and care enough about you to make this a short ad read. Check out Beat Down Outdoors. Now back to the show.
I look at Live Scope and this is not a knock on it.
No, it's not
because I think me and you that we agree on there. Like there's part of me that dislikes LiveScope. There's part of me that loves things about LiveScope. There's what I hate about LiveScope in general is the division that it's caused in the industry. Because growing up, I never looked at another angler and was like, that was somebody who's like me. That wasn't somebody who I was against.
Yeah.
But I really just watching it. And I've had a few different kind of epiphanies over the years. But this year, I had Wesley Gore was one of the guys who stood out. And it was like an epiphany to me. I was watching him fish boat docks. And we were doing coverage. And I'm watching him. And I'm like, he's not doing anything different. He's just doing it faster and more effectively than anybody did in the past. He's covering 3 days worth of docks in one day because he's not wasting time trying to hit every corner. He's scanning and fishing if there's a fish there, whatever. And then I look and I'm like, well, it's kind of what Kevin did, except Kevin didn't have a machine. Kevin didn't have, electronics that was doing it for him. He just sped up the game and it changed the game. Everybody sped up behind Kevin and the sport has gotten faster and faster. But if you look what they're doing, it's literally just math. They're found a way to make it happen faster.
Well, yeah. And so there's things that I don't watch YouTube. I do watch TikTok. It's just, I just can't help myself. And so random stuff pops up, right? So it's not people I follow, just, it'll be, that they'll get you with politics. They'll get you with all kinds of stuff. They still throw fishing in there. And the one there's all kinds of stuff that like gets me going. Like that's usually what happens, Dave. I see something on TikTok and it's a comment and then I have to make a video on it. Right. Because, and so one of the comments is, and it's from old and young, right? It comes from both sides. I don't mind picking both sides of it. But one of them's like, hey, this about the LiveScope thing. It's like, well, look, it's tough. Not anyone can go out there and do it and all this stuff. And I'll go, I was on the lake the other day and I'm out there and I was out there deep fishing on a lake. I've never done it before. And I caught giants out there. Like, and I'd catch one and I go, I can't catch this without LiveScope. Like, yeah. Now I've spent the last 2 to 3 years almost exclusively doing it because while everyone else complains about it, I have to make money fishing tournaments and all the tournaments I fish allow it. So I was like, I don't have time to sit there and once again, rest on a sponsor or I'm like, I got to go make money. So like, I'm not going to complain. I've got to like, if I can't beat them, I got to join them. So I was a little late to the party, about a year late, but I was like I jumped on in and I was like full on force and I struggled at times and I was like, just keep staying with it, and I'm fine. I watch it now and I'm out there and what I was doing, cause I've done the other way for so long that I was going, yes, it's taken me 2 or 3 years to get what I would say very competitive with it. Like I'll put myself up against anyone. I'm not as good as those other guys, some of these guys, like no doubt about it. Some of these guys are exceptional, right? They know way more than me, but I'm getting enough to where I feel like when I say competitive, like I can go win one, right? It's taking me 2 or 3 years to where I can pretty much, I think I can win a LiveScope event. I mean, we've made quite a few top fives this year. Seconds, like one fish away. I think, and I did it in 2 or 3 years from something I never knew about. I couldn't have ever done that in regular fishing. Like that in the sense of I could go win a tournament, but I couldn't go to a new lake like that and just beat locals. Cause I'm not just fishing. Like that's the one thing is we don't get to go fish against a group of guys that travel around. I go travel against show up to a lake 5 hours away from me and it's all locals.
Yeah.
So I've had to figure out how to be locals on a lake. But my point is that I can catch sometimes 3 or 4 times as many fish and bigger fish live scoping. It's taken me 2 or 3 years which would have taken me 5, 10. The process is faster. And so everyone's like, well, it's harder and you got to be skilled. I think the problem is it's not a problem, but man, it's so much faster to learn this. And that, yes, at 16, by the time you're 19, if that's all you've done for 3 years, because I get questions asked all the time, do you take your same knowledge of fishing? I'm like, no.
You can't.
I don't take any of that knowledge. It hurts you more than it helps you. No doubt. You're older guys that have been fishing for a longer time. That knowledge, hurts you more than it helps you. And if anyone wants to, I would be happy to explain that.
Well, you can't take all, because the dot overpowers no matter what you think. Like if you're using live scope, your thoughts of what the fish should be doing, none of that matters because the dot beats it. You know what I mean?
And everywhere where we had to catch fish, right? I noticed that when someone was talking about Florida, and I would go, like, you see some Florida events, right? Where you're like, no one can win one out of the rim canal. Like there are these events that you're like, well, it's definitely not going to play there. But those guys don't look at Okeechobee
like
you do, that grass, right? They were going to places in Florida and going, what's that weird piling out there? That's a marker channel. And then going out there and throwing a jerk, and I was going, well, look at all those pads and grass. And so everything that we've ever done to have a young, fresh mind and just, they look at it in this, I'm giving props to them. They look at it and there's nothing holding them back. Us old guys, I had to get away from it. Everything I did was like, well, that doesn't make sense. Okay, why would they be out there? I would question it going, no, I've always caught them here. And I had to like break away from that and go, I need to erase everything I have, open mind, and just go with it. And it was the best thing I ever did, but it's extremely hard to go do.
That's the thing that I think it's missing. Like, you cannot like the technology, but you have to respect. When I see somebody good, it doesn't matter. I'm not into whatever lawn darts, but if my buddy says, "Hey, this guy's the world's best," watch him throw a freaking lawn dart, I still respect his skill. But when you said it makes things quicker, isn't that in some ways just evolution? Like if you look at things, like everything in today's world is, you used to have to figure out how to read a map. Now you got a GPS. You used to have to figure out how to back up and hook your boat up. Now you got GPS. You used to have to go to a bar to meet a girl or wherever you would meet said girl. Now you just use your thumb and you literally scroll through. Like the world's getting faster.
I think the only thing that scares people, and it scares it, well, like I said, I've thought about this and done so much. You don't ever want to lose what fishing is. So I think some people were scared about that, right? Losing that. We all loved the whole, when Takahiri, like on the final day, with 15 minutes left, changes up with a crankbait and has that, like, I wouldn't watch that. I saw that clip the other day and it's such an awesome, like for him to just change like that and what made him change. And just that's what made fishermen, that's what we all looked at fishermen as really good. As the guys that could just had that different thing about them that they knew when to change. They knew when to do that. Like we all prided ourselves when we did that in the tournament.
That's always been the age old battle though. When you think about it, like you watch a guy commit to an area and if they bite, that dude is a wizard because he knew that if he stays there, if they don't bite, that dude's an idiot because why didn't he adjust? But LiveScope kind of takes, like now when you watch like Palnick, who I think what he did this year was incredible. It becomes a lot more incredible without LiveScope. It was pretty easy to stay there when you knew the fish were there.
Yeah.
That's not saying what he did isn't amazing, but it's different. Like it's
just different. And different change scares people. It scared me. But so like I said, there's a point in there where there's always going to be a point in there, and it might not ever get there. But I think it scares people. Like AI scares people. AI is a scary thing. In a good way, it's great, right? Like you being able to get on your phone and go, hey, how do I do this? And it gets to you instantly. We all love that part. But then it's, then you're at your job and you get fired from your job and going, I got this computer that can do your job now. I was always worried too that fishing should be hard. And don't get me wrong, live scoping can be very difficult, like very frustrating, very hard too, all that stuff. But I mean, I think people were worried that you don't want it to get too easy, or you don't want it to get to where you want the professional to be the professional. It's like, I can't do what that guy does. Now, that's never been the case in fishing, but no, because I've always made this argument. I think it's a great argument. When Kevin Van Dam was at his greatest, the peak of his whatever, a local, you put that guy on a lake up against just some random local, that random local can beat Kevin. He could beat him, no doubt about it. No questions asked. That guy might have a spot right now that has 25 pounds on it every time he shows up, and Kevin's out there catching 23 pounds because he's like got the pattern down. But that guy sits there and makes 5 casts, catches 25 pounds and wins. When Tiger Woods was at his greatest, you could beat all the guys in the country, 1 against 1,000,000. He's going to beat all of them, right? Fishing is that one weird thing that like you don't have to be the best all the time to win. Like you can have a better spot, you can do some weird things, but what Kevin did, you couldn't go around and just dang near win every event you go to. Like that's what made Kevin so much better than everyone. He just never missed. And so fishing, you just don't want it to get to where, like you said, there's 500 pros that could possibly go win. And then it kind of gets watered down. And then it kind of looks like, well, okay, why is it getting watered down? I mean, I think you want superstars in the sport to a degree. I'm not saying we're losing them, but I'm just saying too much technology or too much anything getting too good to where it makes everyone better, you might get that. And so then you kind of look at it going, I'm not saying we're there yet, but I think that's what it could get there at some point in time where there's no, I'm telling you this is the other thing that scares me. What if I told some young guys this, I'm like, hey, be careful. If you teach everyone how to fish and everyone can just absolutely go out there and catch 20 pounds, why do they need to watch you for?
I mean, there's a truth in that always. But so how do you explain what Trey McKinney did this year on St. Clair? I mean, he's still doing, he clearly was doing it better.
He's by far a better live scoper than those guys.
Than Jay Securit?
Yeah. He was at that tournament.
I mean, clearly.
Yeah. No, I've been around that live scope thing, like anything. Like I've sight fished my whole, like if without sight fishing, I wouldn't be sitting here with you. Like sight fishing was my like bread and butter. I could do it. And I understood it. I did it more than everyone else I knew. I did it every single day in the springtime. I did it 10 hours a day. I just fully lived by it. And I still, to this day, that's what we do. There are things that, like, I don't care if you put someone out there for 3 years, they're not going to, like, there's just nothing you, live scope, there's still always going to be those things that like pop. It's going to be little bitty things here and there that someone figures out. And I've been around it sometimes where I've been around people live scoping and I've caught them. I've seen it the opposite. I just think that when you get that little bitty, whatever it is, like you figure it out, because it is a technique. I mean, it is no doubt a technique that's very, there's a lot to it. The one thing that I always get upset when people are saying is like, well, you still got to catch them. You know what? I've never heard a live scope. Like, you know what? You've never seen a live scoper say, a good one. Like you've never seen a great sight. You've never seen John Cox or or any of these guys going, God, I just couldn't catch that fish. You know, you've never seen a great sight fisherman say that, right? They usually catch it. But you've been around a lot of sight fishing, they have to pass up fish because they can't catch them. I've never heard good live scopers go, yeah, but I found all them fish, I just couldn't catch them. They usually catch them is what I'm saying is, and so it's definitely a technique, but like anything else in this sport, finding them is a million times more important than catching them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Trey on the last event or that event, they all found him. They all caught him though, right? He just caught him a little bit better. Yeah. They all caught him in that event around Trey. Trey just caught him better. That's all I'm saying is though that like finding him is way more important than catching him.
I think in general, wherever you sit on this never-ending debate, I think that as a pro angler, you should want as many pieces in play as possible. Meaning that, like, there's a reason that people are part of the PGA and not the long drive contest.
Yeah.
And long driving is cool. It is, and there's a skill, and it's amazing. But it's one element, and there's a reason those guys are on the long drive tour and not the PGA, because they've mastered that one, and that's what works best for them. Longevity as a pro angler requires evolution from everybody, whether you're an old schooler to evolve into, like you talked about, your way into live scope, or whether you're a live scoper and you need to evolve. Like the more pieces that are involved in it, the more pure the competition becomes, in my opinion. Is that wrong way of thinking?
No, I mean, so being from a college town, like I'm around some of the younger guys, right? So there was this, a friend of mine had her daughter going to college or whatever, and she would go to church with us. You know, we'd have her over for dinner because, you know, they sometimes don't have dinner on certain nights, and she brought her boyfriend over. And I was like, yeah, bring him over. That's fine. So we were cooking dinner and everything. And she's like, well, he's a fisherman. And I go, I don't talk fishing outside. Like when I'm at we don't talk fishing anywhere, right? Like people think I like to talk fishing. I don't really like it. So I was like, oh, all right. He's just, you know, so he comes over, whatever. Me and him to this day, I talked to him like yesterday. We're good friends. So, but he get over there and he's obviously young, live scoper, all this stuff. And this was probably like 4 years ago. And I told him, I said, hey man, and he's talking about all this stuff. And I said, hey, I'm going to give you some good advice. Whatever you do, go learn how to fish the other way as much as you possibly can. You're good at live scope. Spend a lot of time learning how to fish without it. And he's like, why? I'm like, I've told everyone this because I've been doing this for so long. I said, hey, look, man, here's the one thing I know. Fishing is going to change. And I don't ever know which way it's going. I always try to predict the way we're going. But I said, I'm going to learn how to live scope. And I said, but I already know how to catch them the other way. I said, if I can catch them the other way and I learn how to live scope, you're in trouble. Because I'm like, I'm going to get good at it. I said, what happens if something happens? I'm just saying, what happens? And here we are a couple years later, you know, NPFL doesn't have it. BPT has their own thing. Y'all, you know, Bass has their thing now next year. There's a little bit of it without it. And that was my whole point, just like you said, like, you better be able to change, because what I've seen is that you're not going to get this like one set way for very long. It's going to change, whether you think it's good or bad, it will change. So be ready to adjust. And I will say, I hope the older guys don't get mad at this, because I'm old. I'm an older guy. I cut my beard because a buddy of mine today was like, he's like, golly, you got a lot of gray in your beard. And I was like, well, shit, I'm 46 years old, man. But I was like, staying in the game this long, you better be willing to change. And I think some of them didn't want to and fought against it. And whether they believe they were right or wrong, I get it. But man, no one's going to sit around and wait on them.
Isn't that the truth about life, though? Like in every, like what we're doing right here, this conversation we are having on YouTube. I mean,
which we never had 3 years ago, right?
You would never have had, but even YouTube in general. Like, I grew up producing a television show, working around TV. Everything that TV is, and YouTube's the exact opposite. And it's really easy for somebody who's been on TV to be like, "Wow, these YouTube guys." They don't need the proper camera. They don't need, it doesn't matter. People are absorbing it and you got to evolve, like it's, and to say that some people do take insult to that, because.
Insult to what?
You got to evolve. Like,
oh, I thought you meant the YouTube thing. Cause I was like, yeah, I could see that too. But
no, I'm sure TV did take, you know what I mean? When all of us, and let's be honest, YouTube in a lot of ways is more important than TV now. Like I used to see people at Bass Pros and whatever and say, they'd say, oh, well, I watch the show. And I'd always say, where do you watch it? Just to get, dude, the number one answer is freaking YouTube now, like above any of the networks we're on. And it's the same for everybody.
My kids have never watched. They've never, I mean, we grew up watching channels, TV channels and stuff. My kids don't watch any, and I don't like it. I mean, I make them go play. That's why they play so much sports. They don't have choice, but like, it feels different because I watched a lot of TV and it's like, man, if y'all just go watch TV, I'd be fine with it. Right. But all they're doing is watching YouTube on a tablet and stuff here and there. And I'm like, okay, I would watch an hour or two of TV a night and no one complained. They don't watch channels and stuff like that. And I don't watch YouTube, right? But YouTube is so much bigger than everything else. And I understand, and I think you understand why. I think so many anglers, professional anglers, could benefit not from YouTube, but understanding personalities, how to there's so much how much could the right angler on live could boost his, and they don't understand that. I used to sit there and want to like tell them. And now I'm like, hey man, that's all on you. Like I'll just do my own thing. Like I don't need that platform. I'll just try to create my own, but they would benefit by a lot by realizing that there's some learning stuff, some entertainment stuff. I know you're trying to win a tournament, but you can do all those. There's some older guys that are freaking phenomenal still to this day at it.
Why does Hackney? Everyone love Hackney. Why does everyone love Jason Christie?
Hackney's like the best.
Guys, and Hackney doesn't, like when people think you gotta entertain, you gotta what? Hackney doesn't go. Hackney is Hackney. That's who he is. But he talks But here is where, because nobody bitches at the young anglers more than me. All anglers in general, like, hey, this is your opportunity to make an impact. Like Carl Jacobson's a guy who I use as an example a lot. Every time he's been on camera, he's made a freaking impact. Good, bad, or indifferent. Like he wasn't always winning. Sometimes it's you're cheering for Carl because you saw him get crushed, but you saw it and you felt it. But here's to play devil's advocate. In today's world, are we making it easy for those guys to become the next Greg Hackney, or are we crushing them? Because if you're Easton Fothergill, for example, you just won the freaking Bassmaster Classic, the biggest event, the event that you dreamed of winning since you were a little kid. And the biggest thing, whether it's YouTube or TV or wherever, or a stage, the biggest thing about your personality coming out is confidence. It's the same in sales or whatever. Like the more confident you get, the better you are at it. We freaking crush their confidence before they even get a chance. Like if you're Easton Fothergill, after you win the Classic and everybody says what they said about you, do you want to put on a show, or do you just want to put your head down and catch fish?
No, you want, so even stuff that happens with me, and I'm not going to get into it, but even over the past day or so, like my wife looked at me last night and I looked at her, and boy, I was adamant. And I said, hey, look, and she's a principal, right? So her whole job is like not comforting, but like figuring out how to like resolve things. And I was going, hey, look, I told you from day one, I'm going to stand on principle. I'm going to stand on truth. And I said, I'm going to stand on my character. I can't help if other people want to do whatever. I said, but I'm going to do that. And if I tell the truth and do all that, I don't care about the repercussions. I just don't. I said, I'm older than that. I don't care what people, if I don't know you and you don't like me, I've always said this. I tell my kids this, hey, look, and I tell young people this, the only people I care about that I want them to like me, that I get upset, are people that if they don't know me, I don't care. But if you know me and you know me in my character and everything, and you're upset with me, that bothers me big time. Because that means you know me, and that so I've done something, right? But if not, I can't change the way some random person I've never met and he hears something from somebody. I'm like, I'm not going to lose sleep over that. And I was like, but I couldn't have done that at 20 something.
That's what I was about to say. That's a 46-year-old who's had a lot of success.
100%.
I mean, that's one of the most beautiful things about aging.
Yes.
You get to the point where you're just like, you don't like my podcast? Guess what? There's a lot of others. Not every show's for everyone.
Yeah.
Not like that is a beautiful thing. But at 23, it's a really hard spot to be in.
Kyle Patrick, I don't know how me and Kyle hooked up, right? Like I think it was at iCast, and I'm like, who is this freaking goon? You know? And so like next thing you know, like, and I talk to Kyle all the time, and man, we have conversations a lot about this stuff. And I don't get to watch a lot of live. I never get to watch live on Saturday, Sunday because I'm fishing. So it's usually it's Thursdays when I get to watch live and stuff. So Thursday, maybe Friday. So that's the only time I'll catch them, but I'll see clips. And I'm like, dude, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Like,
hell yeah.
It doesn't matter. Because everyone's like, he's got ADHD. I'm like, no, he doesn't. He's being
I'm pretty
himself.
Sure he does. I'm pretty sure he does.
But I was like, look, man, you're not the same as everyone else.
Be who you are.
You've realized what matters. You've realized how to like be a little different, be something. It's who you are, but you've embraced who you are. Like James Watson is a good buddy of mine. What I learned is what you see with James Watson is James Watson. Now, is it a turned up James Watson? Yes. When I'm around James, I will get him so fired up on purpose. I know it makes him tick to get him to that level and just sit back and laugh because it's fun. Like he's a fun James to be around. He's always fun, but that's who he is. And so if you learn to take what you already have, your personality, and just not up it, just realize it. Like realize what it is, and then don't be afraid to let it out. Sometimes it might be bad, sometimes it might be good, but like polish it. It's who you are. Don't act like someone you're not. Because that's the part that when I watch certain people, it feels very fake. That turns me off as well. I'd just rather you be kind of honest in who you are and let it go.
Yeah. I think that's the world now, where people have to be more genuine than they've ever been. Because guess what? If you're fake, like, dude, back in the day, I mean, just interviews, example. Like everybody used to watch late shows where they would practice the interview. You know, oh, you're going to tell me a funny story about going to the zoo, and oh yeah, we'll set that up. So I say to you, Todd, hey, you been going anywhere lately? And you say, well, I went to the zoo. Oh, what happened at the zoo? And then you tell your funny, and everybody knew it was. Now people want a real, actual conversation that's every angler that cares to listen to anything. I'm always like, be whoever you are. Like it doesn't look at Seth Feider. I mean, Seth Feider but when he first showed up, he, tried to look like what a pro angler is supposed to look like. And it wasn't till he kind of got in trouble, like to the point with his career where, hey, this might be over. He just said, screw it. I'm going to be who I am. And from that moment forward, he's pretty much caught him the whole time. And his fan base has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger because he's real. Like,
yeah. So and like I bring up my wife again. She goes, now, every once in a while, she's like, well, Todd, like saying this, I'm like, hey, let me tell you something. I do podcast, like all of my podcasts are live. If you call them podcasts, I don't know what I call them. They're just talking with buddies.
You used to also say you weren't a YouTuber.
Yeah,
and now
I
you've
still say
admitted
that.
that. Now you're not a podcaster, but you
Right,
do
now-
sit down and talk to guys for an hour and a half or so.
Right. But I still do them live. I do them live. And so like there's a chat that goes over there and it's just full of comments because everyone's like, when Zona did one with me, Zona's like, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, the comments will lead the discussion, I promise, But with Zona, it's easy. But we do these lives and I'm like, Brittany, I've done 50 or 100 lives before for 2 hours. I don't think I've ever gotten one single like, ooh, you shouldn't have said that, or ooh, that was a mistake. No, like it's pretty easy. Like I just talk this is how we talk. After that many times, Joe Rogan said it that one time. He was like, hey man, for an hour you can fake it.
Yeah.
So that's why I like 3 hours, because eventually your personality is going to come out.
Yeah.
And so I was like, just do live a bunch. Do live, do podcast, do it with people, learn to just embrace what it is. And I was like, you'll get good at it. And you'll realize that there might be guys that, don't worry about some of the comments, just or rewatch it and go, okay, I could have worked on that or whatever,
Yeah, I think just being real is so important. Being real and being, and listen, they're working, no different than the waiter at your restaurant or waitress. They're probably not real. You don't know what's going on with them. They don't come to the table and be like, I've had a bad day.
Right.
But so there's a little bit of that in everything. But I think that there's somebody today, in today's world, there is somebody who wants to, YouTube's a prime example of that. There's people on YouTube that I'm like, how are they even saying this? Like, how do you even believe that? But through the comments, there's a bunch of people that are like, yeah, preach, what you're saying is incredible. But there's somebody for everyone now. Like, even if you're the quiet guy, but as long as you own it, it's way better to be who you are than to fake and try to be Ike and Ellie or try to be whoever you deem to be that way.
Yeah. The YouTube thing when I first started was very tough because I remember the first video. I'm not even going to say why I watched this video. I watched it because I was I just said why I wouldn't get on. But anyways, I was going to have to do something with this person. Right. And I watched a video and I looked around like, I'm not getting in the boat. No way. And so I just never watched fishing videos. And then I've still to this day, a buddy of mine, when I was at Lake of the Ozarks, he has it on. He has it on like just whatever. And so I'm sitting there, I don't have control over it. And I'm sitting there watching going, what is this? And I started doing stuff like what I thought was important in fishing. I didn't go into this with any research. And I was like, well, these are the things that are important. And I got crushed in the comments. It was like, no, it's you have to trim your skirt this way and add 4 orange strands and do all these things. And I go, well, that doesn't matter. This is important. Like how you look at it and how you change and how all these things. I'm like, oh, y'all are just listening to like what the magazines and like you're just regurgitating things you've heard that sound really good on paper, but they're not. Yeah. In theory, they catch fish, but if you're really wanting to understand why this guy's caught 30 today and you've caught 3, it's because of this. Man, people didn't want to hear that. They wanted this like make believe reasons of why to catch fish. And I'm going, yeah, that's not, it's like that one deal where they spent 7 hours idling around to find fish. Right. And then they talk about how to catch them and they throw this crankbait out there. Like, look what I just did. I'm like, you probably throw 45 different baits out there and catch them.
Yeah.
But the real thing was you figuring out where those where the school was and all. It was very hard at first. And I was like, we're going to have to teach these people what's real on YouTube. Because at the time, there wasn't a lot of guys that were really like true, like really good fishermen. I mean, there were some, but there was a lot that were just like, oh, I can just get on here and I don't know what they were doing. They just goof around on YouTube and catch a fish and think that was the thing.
Do you still think to today I think I know your answer to this, but do you still think that there's things that happen on YouTube and things that are taught on YouTube that literally just exist on YouTube? Like if you go fishing with that dude, he's probably not doing that. You know what I mean? Like those little let me show you the hack of the century.
All of them. I think all of them are fake. I don't know of any so I try to do them in a certain way that is that you really will see me out there doing it.
Yeah.
But they're like, so what do you do right there? I'm like, I just look at me in a tournament. I take it out of the freaking package and tie it on. I'm like, I don't do, and I was like, they're really good stuff. So I'm real bad about this, but I'm honest because this is the way I make a living. There's a lot of things that for 2 years I might catch like 70% of the fish on, and I won't show it for like a while. I don't know. I just won't. I don't even apologize for it. At least I'm honest about it. But I'm like, yeah, there's some things that I just don't show. And then if I know, I know the ones that's going to make me some money. Yeah, I won't show it. There's one or two things for 4 years now I've really never shown or talked about.
What's your goal with your channel?
I don't know. I don't ever want to be pigeonholed into this one thing. I think it's always evolving. I'm starting a new series probably Monday from Lake of the Ozarks. This series stuff is what I like to do the most. It's by far so when I did like the Alabama waters, when I was like leading the championship on Gunnersville, I started all with this series called Deep Water on Choke Canyon. And we were fishing a championship with my buddy. Like I was best man in my wedding, like all this stuff. It was the truest form of what I thought fishing was, which was we had 2 days of practice. The event came around. I had everything filmed. I had all these fish catches, all this stuff. And it was all perfectly designed for this tournament. Had a shallow water bite, had some treat. Like we had all this, like all these different ways to catch them. It was awesome, right? So we go to this championship and we start off and it's like, doesn't go right, doesn't go good there. And, that doesn't go good. Like nothing goes good. I ended up catching one big one on like a hybrid hunter, and I hadn't caught a big one there yet. So it's like halfway through the day, we're like, God, we kind of got lucky there. We did all this other stuff. And at the end of the day, we had this one random spot that we thought might be good. I think I got one bite there. And we catch another big one, and we're in like the top 10. And we're like, if you didn't watch our day, all you did was watch practice, and I said, how did we catch him in the tournament? Everyone would have said the same thing.
Yeah.
But that's not how we caught him. Because it was like, it's what happens with real fishing. Like it's what happens with all these guys that are really good. They adjust and do some things, right? Or a little bit of luck in there, some things. Day 2 was even worse. And then at 12 o'clock, like I look, and for no reason, it's just what we do. I'm just trolling in the back through 400 yards of matted grass. And all of a sudden I'm like, why is there an opening back here of an inside grass line and 2 foot of water? And we crushed them. And we end up like catching like the biggest bag of the day, move all the way up to top 5, 4, I don't know. And I was like, hey, that's fishing. Like, that's what fishing is. Like, that's the tournaments I always will remember. And I had it all filmed, and we called it Deep Waters. And I made this whole series. It was like a 12-part episode. And I left people on cliffhangers, and everyone was like, they wouldn't have ever thought that that's how it happened from practice. And I'm like, hey, no, that's how really fishing is. It's not this like perfect textbook. We can go out there and do it. So I started doing these series when Alabama waters, Guntersville was the same way. I ended up catching them so different on day one, lucked into it, semi kind of like, whatever. And that's the part that I want people like, that's really fishing. That goes on. But I've always said that like with the elites and the BPT and all that stuff, and it sucks when I say this to you because you're a part of this, right? So I hope y'all I don't think you'll take offense to this. When you watch y'all's events, it's like opening a book halfway up and starting in the middle. All those guys have been working their butts off for 3 days finding fish, but all it does is show them at the beginning of the tournament. But really what's the most fascinating and interesting part should be the first 3 days of them practicing, because that's what led them to where they're at. And that's the part that really, I think if people wanted to learn, that was the most important part. So I had this opportunity to do that with my series, is I get to show them where it started from day one, like my first cast to like then the tournament. It's a hard editing. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for not a lot of return. I'll be honest with you. If I could do that all the time, that's what I would do. If I could hire someone to help me edit that, that's the only stuff I'd ever put on YouTube, is that right stuff right there. Like I wish someone was a producer of a TV show and would watch that and go, dude, you got something there. I'm not saying it'll ever happen, but that's what I would love to do, because I think that's really watching the true tournament experience is that part.
Cracking the nut, figuring like that's always. So to play devil's advocate, and I don't know why you would thought I would have took offense to that. I totally agree with that.
Like, I don't know.
I don't get offended very easy, Todd.
Right.
I did once, and I sent you a message, and I didn't even get offended with that.
No,
I just said, "Hey, what you said is not and I can only speak from my behalf. I said it's not factual. Anyways, we don't.
It's not factual for you, and you. I text you right back like, dude, you were 100% right, but dude, you were not even in my thought process of that.
Yeah. I'm very forgettable. It's fine.
No, in a good way. That was a good way. Like you were like, no, okay.
No, I get it. But isn't that the same? Like if you're watching playoff baseball's happening right now, that dude hits a home run, but it's because of the work that they put in before. You know what I mean? It's the same. It's weird. I sometimes look at our coverage, and I'm the biggest critic of our coverage just because I love the sport. I mean, me and Zona are probably the two biggest critics, but I also look and I'm like, in some ways we've made steps forward, but in some ways because now we have so many more cameras, and that's on paper seems like a great thing. And in a lot of ways it is. And you get these people like, why doesn't everyone have a camera? I honestly think it would be, as much as that seems great, there's a case to be made that it would be horrible, because the more cameras you have, the less of the story you get to tell. You're hopping around and you're just like this guy and this guy and this guy. And the more you just can't tell the story the way, to me, I always wanted, like, one of the most fascinating things covering events like that. I remember following Aaron down a bank of riprap, and he's throwing a jerkbait and he's being Aaron. And then out of nowhere, he goes and fires out in the middle. Hammers a big fish. It obsessed me. I'm like, I want to know what made you say, like, it wasn't, a fish didn't surface. It was before forward facing sonar. So it wasn't like he grafted out there. Something told him. And to me, that's the magic, like inside their head.
So, yeah. So when I do all that with those series, I talk you through my process of why I'm doing everything. The great part about that is I know the ending. It's the book. Like, I have the entire book written out. I can do whatever I can lead you. So in those series, I hate to say it, but I lead you down a road that I know you want to go down, but I know that that's not the road it's going to happen. I didn't know it at the time, but now I do. So I can kind of like fool you to a degree of like, oh, when they leave this spot, he called them in practice this next one, they're going to crush them. Then I get there and nothing. And you're like, well, wait a minute. I know you caught them. I haven't, where did you catch them? Because none of this is making sense. So like, and I don't do it on purpose. I do my editing that way. But in reality, I'm just going out there. When we talk about like, I don't know like I always will give you an answer. I don't know this answer. The hour-long show is what I grew up on. Y'all got to edit the show. You got to tell the story. You got to feed the drama. You got to do everything you wanted to do, which I thought was awesome. I wish you could do it, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't. It's hard because of the live. And I'm not saying it would even work. So I'm not saying to go back there because live is its whole new thing. I've talked with Kyle before. Let me ask you this. What if every angler had a camera, their own camera, their own whatever. And I wanted to watch Seth Feider all day because I like the way Seth Feider does things. You want to talk about like having I can't think of this. Like some guys wouldn't like it. But for guys like Hackney, Feider, Kyle Patrick would be one. Guys that understand how the camera works, I think they would kill it. And some guys are going to be like, well, no one's watching me. Well, maybe you're not offering anything. I'm just wondering, because I would be the one that would vote for that. I'm like, oh, yeah, man, I'll take – because to me, that's betting on yourself. That's what I'm doing. Like,
it's YouTube. It's YouTube.
Yeah,
Why aren't they watching your YouTube channel? If you're putting good content out, I mean, there's times where it takes a while, but they're going to find you.
They're going to find you.
Am I wrong? Like, there's
No.
not a lot of good content that's not getting watched.
Would that be somewhere where there's this free enterprise of like, hey, it is what it is, and I don't know how Bass fits in there, but I'm just saying it would be interesting if that was the case, and then. Because I watched live a little bit here and there. There was a point in there where I was like, you missed it. I think it was Carl. I don't know who was, I remember that you were on someone and Carl was doing a loop around him. I can't think of who it was, but I'm pretty sure Carl was making a loop and they got to talking.
Carl and John Cox, I think.
No, it wasn't John.
Because I know him and Cox talked at the Classic, and Cox like lined him in. Like it was like, to me, anytime an angler is talking to another angler, to me that's gold. Like is.
Yeah, but it starts. So they were on this guy who was in the top, and they're filming him, blah blah blah, and he's not catching them. And Carl kind of goes around, and about that time is about to be a commercial break. And for about 5 to 10 seconds, they go, hey, man. And they start talking. And right there, I was like, that's it. That's the goal. That's the freaking deal. And they went straight to commercial because you could barely hear him. And I was going, that to me is what you were about to hear, real talk, not camera talk, real talk. And to me, that was what I was like, how do you capture that? Because that was about to be good. You see it too, right? I'm not saying it can always be.
On camera this year, I've literally scolded my producer, like live. Been like, we're not leaving. No, he wants us to leave. We cannot leave. What's happening? We're left. Like, that's commerce. Like, I get it. Like, it's the same. I watch an NFL game and something's going on and they pulled a commercial. Like, I get it's business. It has to, depending on how you're watching this video, if you don't have YouTube Premium, guess what? We've been in the middle of something and it stopped and given you a commercial too. So I get that part. Trust me, like I'm all about less is more on live. Like talk less, show more. Like to me, but I feel like we don't, like I think people don't, when you compare it to the 1 hour show, and I've really spent stupid amounts of time, like
I bet you
just,
have.
like just looking at, and I'm like, you use the Takumi, our Takahiro Classic win, and that's such an incredible thing. But if you look at that, there's so many elements involved in building that moment.
Yeah.
That are virtually impossible now under today's world, because live is incredible. And I love what we see with live. But if you go back and watch that, you see him and you see it's not just him fishing. It's him fishing from behind. It's another boat covering him. It's tights of his hands. It's him wiping his brow and doing all those things that build, like, as you're watching, it's like, it feels like you're just watching a guy fish. But while you're watching him, you're getting more and more like, I want him to catch this, just like a TV show or anything. Once it goes live, that becomes really hard to do.
I know. And so, like, that's why you have, like, so where do you want my YouTube to go? I figured out something. It's so much work, but I figured out, I used to was never going to tell this to anyone because I'm like, good luck. Two things. One, good luck putting in the work to edit and do what I do. Two is you got to go out there and do this in a tournament. Like, it's got to, like, there's certain tournaments that as it's happening or when it's done, I'm like, oh, killed it. They have, like, because I already know how, because I remember I've already lived it. So I already know how practice and everything went. And I'm like, I got a series. I got it. This is money, you know? And I've done it that way. The funny thing about the hour long or doing the live or any of that stuff is I don't know how the camera's on the guy. I know on YouTube when I do some stuff, I stayed with a buddy of mine and it was one of my last videos or whatever. And they said on there that I mentioned his son playing football, right? They're coming back or whatever. And then their daughter, who I mentioned in this last video, Lexi, got mad. Where's my shout out? I'm like, I got a video for you. Well, in that video, I was sitting there, and you'll understand this too, is that a bird, I was in my truck, and a bird came down and landed on my truck. And all I could hear is his claws like scratching around. And I was like yelling at it. Well, most people would take that out. Yeah. But I've learned to kind of keep it, and they're like, and what's funny is I walked in their house and they're like talking about this bird. 20-minute video, and they're talking about me and my interaction with the bird. And his wife was like, yeah, but that's relatable. Like a bird leaning on it and scratching up. You're like, that's relating to people. So I've learned too that I try not to take those real moments out of a train passing by. Normally you like cut that out, right? And then it's just like, doing a video here, guys. Come on, train. You know, something like that, because that's real. Same thing with fishing too. When you can capture stuff that's a conversation with the guy on a boat dock or whatever it is, some of that, sometimes it's, I don't know, people for whatever reason, well, that's what they'll remember. They'll see something in your background and constantly ask you about something in your background. You're like, I don't even know. What are you talking about?
I didn't even see it.
It's almost like a game for some of them.
Avco not only makes incredible outdoor clothing, but they care about anglers with their 10% pledge. Avco and the Shed family donate at least 10% of the company's profits to conservation and making fishing better. Now back to the show.
If you look at how different it was with the 1 hour show, I mean, you look at flotillas, like the hundreds of boats that used to follow guys. And now you don't see that. You see a handful of boats. But I mean, it was pretty commonplace, especially for Kevin, you know, but like everybody had their, I mean, Christy, what he had on Grand and stuff, like there's just been moments. But I remember one of the things that stands out to me when I first started working for Bass that blew me away. So I'm on the water doing coverage with Overstreet and we're covering Kevin. And there's, I don't know, 60, 70 boats there. And it's quiet. And Kevin's doing his thing. And he gets a backlash. And I remember that this happened a few times, you know, that first season. And I always thought it was hilarious because as soon as he got a backlash, he's, you know how he is. He doesn't stop. He's pulling the backlash out. And you hear like people who don't know their voice travels. He gets those too. He gets those. Like people were just amazed, but nobody on earth ever, like now to say a pro gets a backlash, people are like, yeah, they do. Like we see it all the time. That was all edited out. Like that was, but there's beautiful parts about the 1 hour show, but there's so much we see on the live. Like I just feel like it's an evolution that is weird. Like we went through that last year. Like if you look at the classic, people are like, oh, the weigh-ins are not quite what they once were. You know who won. And yeah, I mean, they're not. Like when Ray Scott could bring you in there and you had no idea, like they were just these guys who disappeared into the mist and came back and the story was unveiled in front of you. That's never, you're never going to be able to duplicate that.
Do the fishermen
know now? Oh, they know now. Yeah. I mean, as much as, and I've tried to get him to stop it, but we can't stop it because there's so much media. Like here's one of the most evil things that happen.
There's still some that are close, right?
Yeah. If they're close, like Christie's classic win that, Stetson Blaylock, Kyle Welcher and Christie, none of them knew who won the Bassmaster. As a matter of fact, Christie's family was preparing to be like, yeah, another close one. Like they thought there was no way he won that. But that's one of the most evil things that happens now, like routinely at tournaments. Like I know 20 anglers this has happened to. They don't think they've won. And they get to shore. And they run into a guy from this website. And they run into a guy from that. And they're like, you won. You've got this. You won. And by the time they get to the stage, they're like, damn, I'm about to freaking win.
See.
And then all of a sudden, koosh, the fish hit the scales. And they're like, I didn't win. Like it just.
See, we've had Toyota, like, so in Toyotas or anything like that, so like this Toyota, you never really know, but I've done them so much, right? So you'll be in the top 10 and you kind of know where you sit. And then the guys come down and they usually check your fish before you weigh them in, make sure they count them up and see how many are alive or dead or whatever. And they have this like paper, right? So they got this paper and they're sitting down there, and I just kind of look to see like how many, sometimes there's not even limits, So like, I'm looking and they won't show how big they are, but I can see limits on there. And sometimes they're hard events, right? So I'm like, all right, and then I'm going to know someone in the top 10 because these are regional events. So chances are I know at least 3 to 4 guys. So it's like, they're like, y'all don't talk. And we're like, yeah, right. And what are they going to do? Watch us all the time? I'm like, you got him? He's like, nah. And I'm like, all right, we're back and forth. And I'm like, no, same thing. So then you start kind of like, hey, did you hear about what does he have? They're like, oh, I think he only had like 3. And so then you're like, okay, so you can like move up. Then there's always this one guy. There's always like 1 or 2 in there that he don't talk to nobody. And like, we had no idea what he's got. And so you can kind of tell that you've moved up a little bit, but you don't really know. So sometimes you think you might have won. Like we've never really ever known. Even if you've had a big lead, you really don't know because there's always one guy. The first one I ever won, the guy in second was like sitting on his back seat with his like legs up going, yeah, I got a big one and stuff. And he did. But I mean, he made it act like he won that thing. I ended up winning, but I was like, he didn't. But I don't know. I was wondering if those guys, because some of them are close.
They know. I mean, they get calls on the way back to at the classic where you have a long drive. There's other pros that call them. You know what I mean? Like I try to like, and we're going to allegedly make an effort to try and kind of keep it. I mean, it's easier in Knoxville because you don't have a big long drive. You know what I mean? Like there is, but, and here's the reason. So my point is like, when you look at that, the weigh-ins are never going to be like what they were when Ray Scott did it, because I mean, that was your only pipeline of information. Like sometimes limiting something actually makes things better in a weird way. But I also wouldn't change. Like we get to see, you got to see the actual winning catch at the Classic as it happened. You know what I mean? Like there's so many other things that you get to have to enjoy, but
and a lot of those guys as anglers, sometimes this might be the fish.
Yeah.
So you're there, you're watching too, like, dude, he catches that, that's going to freak, so like you're almost right there with them going, because as a fisher, like when you, like one of the ones I won, I caught a 10 pounder on the last fish, like I unhooked it and freaking we took off. And I was like, but I was in 9th place going into that event. I didn't think I had a chance to win, and I ended up winning. But I was sitting there going, oh my gosh, we just dropped a giant bag on them. And I just moved way on up. But I mean, for some of those, it's like, no, that fish just sealed it. But now you're watching it too and knowing that same thing.
I think everybody's victory. But I think every victory, it's for the anglers, to be honest. Like it's better for the crowd and everything, but the ones you don't know you won are always better. Like I've asked Lee Livesey. I mean, he's won 3 elites. 2 of them were blowouts on Lake Fork that he literally was the Pied Piper just walking with his bag of fish and the whole crowd following him. He knew this is game over. But the one he won on Chickamauga, that was the most special win. Not just because it was the first, but because it's not the moment on stage. It's the hour of pacing and wondering, is it enough? It's the hour of being like, damn, I missed that one. I did this. And it feels horrible. I always say this to anglers. I know like what you're going through right now. I get it. Feels horrible. But this feeling right now, this is literally why you do this. This feeling of overcoming. But I think no matter what the future is, like I think we live in a world where you got fans who are like, shut off this, shut off that. And as the guy who MCs the WAN, I would love to shut off certain things, but I'm also like, are we really going backwards? Like for the entire existence of Bassmaster, Ray Scott included, dreamed of the day that we would have live bass fishing. We had live bass fishing on not just live bass, we had live bass fishing on friggin' Fox, the same channel the Super Bowl's on.
Yeah.
And the internet was full of, they need to shut down Bass Track. They need to close this. Like, I think sometimes we should be like, there's some pretty cool stuff happening in this world.
I know when Zona, I can't remember, you were there, when Zona saw live and he was like, do we just realize what we just did? He and I'm sure at the time, I still think he thinks somewhat the same way. But at the time he was like, is this really about to happen? Like, did we just do this? This was incredible. I have a question for you. I don't think it's off limits. I think
nothing's off limits.
I know. I think
it's my podcast. If it's off limits, I'll just edit it out.
I don't want to say, I don't know how you're going to answer this. I hope you answer it as real as possible. How you like that? How you like that start off, right? Because I don't mind telling you, because I don't mind telling you, next year, 5 with, 4 without. In all honesty, do you think it will change? Because I want to say this, because a lot of times when you ask a question, you have to know what define the question. If I said some guys are going to struggle without scope, okay, a lot of people go, oh, they're not going to catch. Like, it makes me mad when we're like, hey, that guy's not as good with scope. And like, that guy can catch fish. I'm like, I didn't say that. Everyone can catch. They can catch fish. But in my opinion, and I always say this, there is a giant difference between the guy leading the event and the guy in 10th place. And then the guy in 10th place and the guy in 50th or 70th. Like, that is they are worlds apart in terms of where they're at the moment. The guy at leading Angler of the Year, Chris Johnston, and the guy in 40th in Angler of the Year, they're worlds apart. Sorry, but they are. And at some point in time, right, when we talk about Kevin and Hackney and some of these guys and Rick Klein, whatever, their legacy is giant because of all the stuff that they've stacked on top of each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at a guy who's like for a while, Aaron Martens was just popping seconds, right? And he couldn't get that first, right? Which I think he cemented his legacy. Like Aaron, people look back and we will never have another Aaron because I didn't care whether he won or not. It was the way he fished was like no one else. So like I always said that you don't have to win all the time, but just being special is sometimes better than winning, right?
Yeah.
When you look at this and I say he's not going to catch him as good, they're like, well, he still finished 10th overall in Angler of the Year. I'm like, yeah, but he's not first, and there's a big difference. Would you think some of these guys are going to struggle next year and you're going to be able to see it through with live scope and without live scope? Because I don't think you can judge it off of one tournament, and you might not even be able to judge it off of 1 year. Because I don't really want to bring up Seth, but so many guys were like Anglers of the Year, and the next year was not good. However, I believe you're going to see a giant difference in some outcomes.
I believe that is, and I'm answering this 100% honest. I believe that it is situations are situational. I think that you like, dude.
Oh, you
like,
can't answer. Okay.
No.
I know.
Hear me out here. Hear me out here. To say that they're all going to struggle is just stupid.
No, not all.
That's just as stupid as saying that the veterans can't use live scope. Greg Hackney is incredible with live scope. Jason Christie was one of the friggin' forefathers of live scope, maybe won the first professional event on live scope. But you can't say that they're all going to. I think that certain anglers will struggle. Certain anglers will struggle, and it'll make some better. But I just believe in what results you see. There's one tour this year that you could not use it. Who won their Angler of the Year? Patrick freaking Walters, who is incredible with live scope, but obviously incredible with everything.
Yeah.
So
I don't count any. My deal was, and this isn't a knock on the young anglers, because like everyone's got to prove themselves, right? I mean, I just talked about Aaron Martens. People are like, Aaron can't pull off a win. I mean, they got right, but hey, remember when that was going on?
Oh yeah,
like, that's what people were saying, and I was like, so he got a couple. Like, it's hard to win events. But
people always say stuff. They used to also say Kevin was the greatest angler never to win the big one. Like literally to say that to yourself. Like it seems like I'm making that up, but that is literally what they used to say about Kevin Van Dam.
So my thing is like I see the Patrick Walters thing. I don't do that. It's kind of like Jacob Wheeler too. I'm like, Patrick was winning way before Live Scope came out. He was crushing them. He just became a great live scoper as well.
Yeah.
It's the ones that, because I'll get in arguments of going like, I just want to see the guy win, or not even win. I just want to see what happens without it. And I always felt like I could talk about that because of the fact that I have to fish with both, with it, without it. I don't like the people that talk about live scope that don't do it. I think they don't have a leg to stand on.
They're the same people that make the rumor that it's just like you put it on your boat and boom, you're on the Elite Series.
No, I wanted to be able to talk openly about live scope, and the only way I could do it was learn and get as good as I could at it to where I had an objective opinion on it. Yeah. Right? To where I could be like, hey, look, here it is. I've tried to do all this with live scope. I didn't show events with me doing live scope for a while because I kind of didn't want people to know I was doing it. Not that you'd be surprised. You want to know why the reason? You really want to know the reason?
Sure.
I bet you couldn't guess it. I'm that secret of a guy that I thought that if I ever started catching him on it and winning tournaments, but I never talked about it, that I could continually do it and everyone just would assume I was doing it the other way, and I would have this secret to myself. 100%. That's why. Because I was like, I'm not showing anyone. I wasn't worried about the hate I was going to get. I was like, if I figure this out, everyone's going to think I don't do it, and I'm going to have it all to myself. That was really my thinking for a long time. Then I was like, people were like, oh, when I talked objectively about it, people either just assumed there was no in between. You had to either, you were for or against. And I'm like, no, I talk about things. It's not hard. So then I was like, okay, well, let me show y'all that I actually use it a lot. And then I got the hate from the other side. Oh, that's all you ever do. You can't win, right? I'm just curious as to, I want to see it, because I always said, if I looked at it this way, just to prove those guys a point, right, on the internet, I got good at live scope because one, I got tired of getting beat, and two was to stick it to the people that said I couldn't live scope. 100%. I'm just like, I fished that way my entire life. Like, I wanted to prove someone wrong more than sometimes win. I'm like, oh, you want to? Okay, watch this. As a young angler, I'd give these guys, if I could give them advice, I'm like, you should be pushing for some of this sometimes, because if it was me, and if you weren't, and if you're not scared, you like, if it was me, I'd be like, watch this then. Now what? And I'm talking about even some of the guys on tour, some of the older guys, like if the younger guys were like, hey, you remember when you said I couldn't win without it? Now what? I mean, I wouldn't have a problem saying that to someone twice my age if I was young, and be like, dude, own it. I would be pushing for some of that, because, man, now what? Like an Easton Fothergill can be like, so now what?
And I believe Easton Fothergill will have the opportunity to say that. I believe John Garrett will have the opportunity to say that. I believe, and I shouldn't even start with names, but you keep going, Tucker Smith. There's a lot of people that, guess what? They're going to catch them. Like, they're good. And here's the one thing that I love about, and my initial thing, like a year before MLF made their decision, and it started with Davey Height, and me and him both pushed for like a temporary period throughout the day, 2 hours, a power hour. Like, I thought it would be, to me, that was what I wanted Bass to do. But the more I've looked at the 50-50 or 60-40 or however it worked out, the more I love it, because actually we're going to get real freaking information. Like, we're really going to answer all the crap. Like, nobody's watching, nobody's this, that. And even the way they did it, like, you know, I've heard you a long time. I know. I heard you a long time. You talked about lottery balls, and I
talked lottery ball, and I told Ronnie Moore 2 years ago it should be 50. Like, try a 50-50. And I was like, but when you do this lottery ball thing, make it live, so no one, because the one thing, because I argued with some people that didn't like the coin flip thing, and I was like, y'all are all wrong. I said, listen, man. They could have done this behind the doors, and it showed out like this, and y'all would have 100% said they picked it. And I said,
why didn't Bass do a coin flip?
In the coin flip, people got all mad about the coin flip. I made a video. I doubt you watched it. And
I do. I watch your YouTube. Unlike you, I actually support your shit.
It was the only one that got demonetized. So I had to. It got demonetized. I went and changed it, but I put on there. Because I don't know anything about demonetized or like copyrights and stuff. I've never had anything copyrighted. But I was like, I went and found a 30-second clip of the Chiefs and the Eagles coin flip in the Super Bowl to determine who gets the ball first, because everyone was like, this is cheesy. And I go, so wait a minute. The most popular sport in the world, they start off the game with a coin flip. And I had that on there, and boy, they didn't like. They copyrighted me. So I went and changed it to just the picture and not the video. And so I was like, guys, what are y'all talking about here? Y'all are like pulling for stuff to be like, y'all are just griping to be griping. I said, it's a coin flip. They did fine. This was perfect. Like, we all got to see it. We all watched it. It was great. Like, no one's saying they did anything behind the scenes. Matt Panger's betting on the coin flip.
Oh, no. And I loved Panger. Like, I mean, he's nuts. He broke down the whole, like, how it was flipped and everything. Like, I loved, But here's the one thing I walked away from that with. After that, and answer this honestly, after that coin flip and after the decisions were made and no live scope at Gunnersville, live scope here, you know, once it was all decided, were you more or less excited to watch the 2026 Bassmaster Elite
100%
Series?
more. For me, more. I've always been
Everybody should be.
I've said this before, and I can say, y'all can't say this sometimes, and I get it, but I can't. I can't help what I am. My dad would watch golf all the time. My dad played basketball in college, like phenomenal athlete, could play golf. I saw him hit the golf ball one time in my entire life. At my brother's, the day before he got married, with all my brother's buddies out there, and they're all thinking they're all these golfers and stuff. My dad was like, "Dude, you don't even you're not even set up on this right." And I'm like, he's like, they finally had enough of it. There might have been a little bit of drinking going on for a while, and he's like, he gets up there and he freaking hits a ball, and he's left-handed too, so it's a little awkward. And he hits this ball just dead. I've never seen him hit a golf ball in my life, and I was like, and my brother's like looking at me like, "Is it?" My brother wasn't the one. My brother was like, "You like that?" And I was like, "Okay." He watched golf. I thought it was the most boring thing in the world. You know, I just fell asleep when I was younger, and I said, "Hey, man, why do you watch this? Like, why do you watch golf? Like, what do you find?" He goes, "I just can't wait to see who implodes at the end. I want to see how the pressure gets to him." And I was like, "Seriously?" That's what, I was kind of young at the time, and I was like, "That's why you watch." He goes, "I just want to see who falls apart." He wasn't being negative. I learned that about my dad. He just loved the pressure. Like, he thrived on it. He liked it. He thought he could beat people off of pressure. So I was sitting there and I was watching this go down, and I just want to see the fishermen that respond.
Oh, and you know what's out? I mean, you said you were fueled to prove people that said you couldn't. I think our entire industry is that. Our entire industry is fueled by people who said you can't. That's why anglers cry on stage, not because they won $100,000, but it's because I finally proved that guidance counselor wrong. You know, that my father-in-law, whoever it was that said, get a real job. Like it's, and I think you'll see it. And you're going to see it both ways. You're going to see, because guess what? Pressure's on everybody. Pressure's on the young anglers and again, I'm with you, dude. Like, if somebody doesn't catch him at Gunnersville, I know the internet's going to want to run to it and be like, "See, I told you."
But
what if Tucker Smith wins? What if Trey McKinney wins? And that's still, it's one event.
If Trey wins, they're going to lose their mind.
Oh, if he wins, I would walk around with a T-shirt that said, "Who's next?" and an arrow pointing down. Because, he would. It's the most. But here's one thing you hit on, and I want to talk about this.
What if Gerald Swindle wins on Gunnersville, first elite ever?
Be great.
Yeah, it'll be
whatever way. It's going to be.
That's a story there. That's a phenomenal story there too.
You just said something, and I want to touch on it, because it's not true. Like, it's so weird. You said, I'm going to say this, and I know you guys can't. Like, that belief that we can't say certain things in lives. And I, again, can only speak for me. Dude, I have literally asked Bass over the years, like, going through this thing, like, what is the official corporate take on, and they're like, and literally they've repeatedly given me the answer: say what you feel, say what you think. Like, that's what we have you here for. And that's why, whenever I've seen stuff that I didn't like, like, I hate when we see anglers with their hands on their hips. I'm saying I'm a little teapot during those moments to point it out and stuff. But that belief that there's certain things that we're supposed to say and not say, it couldn't be further from the truth. It's
the only thing I'll say is this: is in your position, and that's because of my understanding of your position. I couldn't be in your. I couldn't do, when I say y'all, I'm kind of thinking of like you and Zona. Maybe you, Zona, Davey, all them guys. Like I couldn't do what Panger does either. Like I couldn't interview people. Some people have asked me to interview certain fishermen. Would never happen. I know too much. And you're like, what do you know? And I'm like, look, man, I know behind the scenes stuff. I know how you act around people. I know when like, I just know. Like, there's a lot of us fishermen that know, right? And I'm that guy that can't. That's why I was like, who do you interview? I'm like, my buddies. Guys, I like, sorry. I don't even hide it. I'm like, I want to talk to people that, whatever. So I've made some text messages during live. That's all I'm going to say. I've made some text messages. Like, I bet you that was rough, because there's a backstory there, right? Maybe me and whoever are the only people that know that backstory, but there is a backstory. I mean, I'm friends with a lot of the elite guys. So like, I know what goes on behind closed doors at times and stuff like that. With all of us, we all know that. Y'all are in a position though that like you can't pick sides that well. Like it's like you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't be put in a position to where you do have a job to do to where you have to be somewhat nice to everyone. Is all I'm saying. I'm not. What I'm saying is this thing that's going to happen. I truly believe there will be some flip-flops in these tournaments. And if someone asks me why, it's not hate. It's strictly a data-based observation. Yeah. And my data-based observation and my lifelong history of fishing will tell me this. Fishing for years before LiveScope came along, we would all agree that when you hit 30, your prime years are about 30 to 40. In my opinion, that's like you learn a lot until you get to about 30, and like it's all comes together. And then what none of us can figure out is the age of when it starts to decline and why it starts to decline, because you have more knowledge than you at 50 years old. I'm not there yet, but at 50 years old, I will know more at 50 than I ever did at my age now.
But there's a drop off at 50.
There's a drop off.
Statistically, you
100%.
Can't argue with it. Like it's not that you can't win after 50.
Correct.
But less people do.
Right. So, and everyone's like, well, times have changed now. And it's like, well, there's the internet and YouTube. And I'm like, we just discussed how YouTube pretty much doesn't have a lot of good stuff on there. I think showing the lakes of live and stuff helps the younger anglers like know where you are. But other than that, and if you go to those same lakes, it helps. That's obviously been a thing. But Aaron Martin's going down the bank and all of a sudden throwing out there with the jerkbait, and you go, why? There's something to that. And none of us can explain that some of those guys have that. Hackney, I don't ever understand why Hackney freaking rarely misses at times in some of those events, right? That's the part that I'm like, that's hard to have at 21. It's hard to have at 25. And what I've noticed with LiveScope and without it is that like those misses, you have a lot more of them at a younger age because you've never been here before. You've never been in this situation. It's happened to all of us. Like it has happened to me. Like I'm not saying it's right. Every fisherman I know has had those misses. LiveScope has been that one thing that like, when I use it, I'm like, man, I have so much, like it's just a different thing. And it'd take a long time to explain. I just wonder, because I don't think having LiveScope in the tournament will affect him that much. I think them not having it in practice is the one that's going to. Because let me ask you this: how many of them, if you're 25 years or younger, 26, how many of them have ever gone out in the last 4 to 5 years and started practice without that thing on?
I can't answer that, but I mean, most of them have not.
Have
but
not.
that doesn't. But
That's
but if you look at where
if
guys
you
are
took
starting,
side imaging off your boat.
oh, same deal.
Right. So what I'm
I
saying
think
is
the biggest thing is mapping.
Right.
If you said to me, we're going to take stuff off your boat, protect the first thing.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but in my boat, long before live scope, long before side image, long before anything, mapping is the first thing I protect.
100%.
That alone.
Mapping was way more important to me than side imaging. So that's my only thing, is that not many of them, and this isn't a knock, this is just, like I said, it's just reality. They haven't had to do that yet. That's going to come into play. It just is. I don't care what anyone said, because it's coming into play for 50 years. For 50 years, we've seen how it's come into play with people, and like showing up and going, I've caught him here for 3 days straight, and now I'm not. And I don't know why. And I can't tell if they're down there or they're not biting or I did something wrong. I don't know anymore. That knowledge of knowing that a fish is under a dock or there or all this stuff is huge.
It's sight fishing all year long. It literally is what you're best at, but it's all year 100%. Long. And
that's why I kind of like it. It's like, they're like, because some guy asked me, he asked me like a day ago, he's like, you ever get tired of it? I'm like, no. I can look in the water for 12 hours and every day I can go, if there are fish on beds, I can do it for 12 hours a day, all day long. And I never have to cast. I just love looking in the water. And when I see fish, I've always loved that. Like, I'm a little kid at heart. I cannot wait to just look in the water all day long. I get to go look in the water all day long with LiveScope. And I said, I enjoy it because my dream with the bass professor, watching him, I make this comparison like all the time. We thought the bass professor was the coolest guy in the world. He went under the water and he showed you these bass on camera.
Yeah.
Now everyone gets one and they hate it. Right? Like, you get to do the same thing he does. You get to look under the water. It doesn't look like a fish, but you get to do essentially what he did. Go into the water and look. And now we're like, nope. And so I'm like, well, no, man. That's all I ever wanted to do was, I wanted to catch a fish and put a balloon on it with a string 30 foot. And I wanted to know where that stupid thing went. Because when they got off the spot of where I caught them, where did they go? I wanted to know that for 30 years. Now I know. Sort of. I don't necessarily, but I have more of an idea. I didn't know they just might go out there and wander around. But yeah, I mean, that knowledge of knowing whether one's there or not, that will weigh on you big time.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. We're going to get an answer. We're going to see what, and I think I know you laughed when I said situations are situational. And I honestly believe that. Like, there's going to be certain people that it's going to be really hard to adjust. I mean, not even from the fact of they can't do it, but dude, I used to be able to back up my boat to my trailer, no problem. My backup camera went out a couple of years ago, and for a month straight, I was 4 feet away from the not knowing that it exists, but not having it, that's going to mess with some people's minds, but there's going to be some people that it'll make them rise up, and vice versa. I think it'll be very interesting that way, because I do think that the sport's getting younger for more ways than forward-facing sonar. I think if it went away, dude, Rick Clunton started at 27 years old. By the time Trey McKinney is 27 years old, he will have competed for 12 freaking years. Or no, not 12 years, 10 years by the time he's 27.
That was my point, to where when I was in college, I knew a guy with a boat or two. They didn't fish tournaments. They just fished. And I would bum a ride with them or something. Like, I knew one guy named Chris. No one had power pole. I didn't know anyone in college that fished tournaments other than with their dad or / somewhere like that. Now I'm in college and because I'm around up here, I know some of these college kids. Like I'm in their same town, right? I run into them. And they all got boats. I see them on the water. They got air, and I'm like, wow, we didn't have that. So the sport got younger, and like I said, there's just more of them. And because someone was like, would you have? They used to ask me because I was a little late to the college fishing thing. They're like, would you have fished college fishing? I'm like, no. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, well, look, man, in high school, I fished the same tournaments with all the guys that are my age. And that's who you competed against. I was like, I knew the kids in high school. They weren't any good. I'm not saying that now, but at the time they weren't. If you wanted to go fish tournaments, you put your money up with the freaking all the older guys, which is me now, right? And so I was like, same thing in college. So there wasn't this high school or college fishing. I wanted so bad to go compete against the older guys. I'll tell you a funny story. That you asked me like what I wanted to do. When I went to tournaments and I was so clueless about the fishing industry as a whole, of course, I'm just this little high school kid. I got shorts on and t-shirt and whatever. And I'd see these guys with these, and I'm with Skeeter now, but I can't help it, right? They would have the Skeeter fishing team.
State team.
No, I don't know, but they buttons on, like
they were,
and there'd be like 6 of them sitting over there. I don't know who they were, right? And we were on Livingston, and I'm like, I just freaking beat all those guys. And I like I said, this is just me being a kid, and I was going, when I grow up, and they'd have their little patches or whatever, And I just remember, I'll never forget this. I look at them and going, when I get older, I'm going to be walking across that stage in a white plain t-shirt because I can do it. I don't need that. Like, I've changed since then, but like honestly, I'll never forget. That's the way I looked at it. I was like, I'm going to walk across that stage in a white plain t-shirt and show them that it's just about fishing, not about all this stuff.
I've run a Yamaha outboard for over 30 years. It has got me home safe each and every time. If you enjoy this podcast, remember, Yamaha supports it and they care enough about you to make this ad read very short. Now back to the show.
Here's one other thing that's really changed with the youth, and nobody brings this into effect. We've talked about Greg Hackney and Jason Christie a few times during this podcast, and they're two great examples. Do you realize that Greg Hackney and Jason Christie have never, ever shared a boat together? Never stood in the same boat other than to give a ride out to their boat at a takeoff or something like that. You can't say that about Logan Parks and Tucker Smith. You can't say that about Easton Fothergill. And they all, like, the way they share knowledge it's unlike anything's happened in the sport. I mean, you fish the tour, you fish the opens, you fish, you get your guys and you kind of share a little bit, but you don't really, like, you're not really. The way the college thing has changed things by taking somebody from Florida and pairing them with someone from Michigan, and the way that they are imparting like their knowledge, like, name a bait, any bait. If you really wanted to learn how to fish a swim bait and you'd never done it before, and you go out with somebody who's one of the best at it and has it all figured out, by the time you leave at the end of the day, you have so much knowledge. It's not just the knowledge you got, but you got the confidence that guy has in throwing it and how to throw it. There's no more guessing. That's what those guys are excelling at. Like the way that they will, and it's all the way through college.
Weird.
Like it's weird, but it's
helpful. So I'll give you, what's funny is I never did all that, but now I will talk to Kyle Patrick, I guarantee you, and Greg Hackney. Any of those guys, I could probably share anything with, and they'd share anything with me for one reason. There's no competition between us.
Yeah. And
so I now have a pretty good, I can call those guys up, and they've called me up. David Mullins has been in my boat. Kyle was we can talk about stuff, and they know that there's no competition between us. So it's like, it's open season. We can do whatever, because I'm not trying to go do what they're doing. They're not trying to do what I'm doing. So it's helped in that way. But anyone that fishes the Toyotas or any of that stuff that I fish against locally, you ain't never getting in my boat. I never Russell Cecil was the first guy who's my team partner now. He was the first guy I ever fished with that actually, we had won a lot of tournaments on Rayburn. And then I finally got in a boat with someone that had actually won a tournament without being in my boat. And then it was like I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to combine all of our information together. This is going to be phenomenal. And so I do think that's a thing. I was talking to a guy about that the other day about the info thing. And I said, I brought up kind of Jacob Wheeler. I was like, when Jacob Wheeler is only talking to people that are like top 50 fishermen in the world. Not because he's meaning to, but that's who he's surrounded by.
That's his world.
And I was like, so when you start just surrounding by nothing but phenomenal fishermen, you're on the cutting edge of information about things quicker than everyone else. And yeah, those younger guys definitely picked that up. It was a weird thing that maybe it happened in basketball too, though.
It happens in every other sport.
Right,
We're the last.
The basketball guys stopped wanting not to compete against each other, but right, LeBron was the first one to do it. LeBron gathered other to make this team, and all the old guys were like, "We would have never have done that." They
didn't even look at each other going to games.
Right.
They had to hate each other.
And now college guys were like, the college guys started that. I started seeing that in Toyotas when I would travel around, and I'm like, why? Who is that guy in the boat with? And it was like, someone was like, oh, that's a college guy. I'm like, oh, so the college guys are all just helping all the other college guys out. And I was going, oh, they don't care? Because I was like, they're just going to give that stuff away? Yep. I said, oh, okay.
I know. That's huge. But I also feel like that's the way I don't know. I think in some ways it's okay. I get that people are like, well, that's different, but I feel that way with the internet stuff. You know what I mean? When I first started this podcast, there was a podcaster who reached out to me and literally told me to move the night I do it on because that's their night. And I remember thinking how nuts is that to call somebody and say, move your show because I do a show on that. It was but I've always been supportive of other people doing to me, it's we are all gonna succeed together. You know what I mean? Tommy and Zona start a podcast. That's great to me. Yeah. That's all the more, but in the competition world, it is different, but I think you cannot put just look at things like fluff, marabou jigs. Dude, I knew about that 20-something years ago. I learned about it from a walleye guy, and that stayed secret for so long. Now those secrets don't stay. Now it's exposed on live. But those college kids, they have their little secrets. They have their, and they help each other.
We were on Louisville. It was a TXTT, and we were on camera. And I was like, the cameraman's right here. And I'm like, and this was this was 2011, I believe. And I think we came in second in the event. And we're at this place. And I reached down to pick something. I'm like, hey, don't point the camera down there. And the guy was like, I'm like, hey, that thing doesn't need to be filmed. And I was, and he was like, all right. And so, we're fishing and we're talking, but we're cutting up. Everything's fine, right? And he goes, hey, man, there ain't no more secrets in fishing. And me, I can't. You also got to realize I'm around my fishing partner all day long on the boat. So, me and him are giving each other just absolute heck all day long, right? That's one of those type of guys that we're ragging on each other. So I just turn around. I'm like, that's what people that don't know about secrets say, right? Because there's all. I'm like, no, there's tons of secrets. You just don't know about it. That's why they're secrets. And he was like, oh man, something about that bait. And I was like, well, look, man, this bait people know about. True. They just don't know I caught 25 pounds on it last week. And then when I go to this other lake, I do the same thing. And I go to the other lake and I do the same. And I go every single lake because I was the first person in Texas to ever buy this bait. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, go ask the guy who made it. He's like, yeah, you're the only person that's ever bought one in Texas for like 2 or 3 years. So that's like, that was a secret of mine. It wasn't that it was a secret. They just didn't know I threw it. Kind of like what I was telling you about. I don't want people to know I'm scoping in case I ever start winning. Like this stupid deranged mentality I have. I say that about spots too, because I'm like, well, I know about those spots. I'm like, no, spots are secret. You might have fished that spot. You just don't realize I caught 30 pounds off of it last.
You don't know what that spot has or how you're fishing it.
It's known, but it's not really known unless I tell you it is, right? So now I tell you it is. Now you're like, oh, that's not a spot. That's a 30-pound whole spot that like has that potential. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that that I think is, you're right, it stays secret longer, but it will stay secret. You can keep some of that stuff.
Well, team tournaments helps with that. I mean, you like, and staying away, like it's hard to keep a secret at the elites or MLF. There's, and that's the constant, Zona is always will be the king of that. Like I am amazed. Like, I mean, he takes his job, and I love that about him, so serious, but like I've watched him chase Steve Kennedy through a parking lot to try and get a swim bait from him to just like, I mean, and if a guy would say, I'm throwing this and he knows it's not that, he would always call it out. But that's also where sport's gotten to, like if you look at, it's Bob Cobb's birthday today, the day we're recording this. It's his 90th birthday today. Bob Cobb is one of the most special people on earth to all of us, but I have a really cool relationship with him. And Bob and me will joke a bit, because the old TNN shows get such, like everybody, look, all the good old days. Dude, they hardly showed anything. Half the time it was just weigh in and it was like, oh, we caught this guy catching a fish. They reenacted a lot of stuff. Like you're seeing so much now. It's crazy.
I will say this before we go, because I know it's getting that time. What I'll say is, the YouTube thing, what I've loved about it is that, like I said earlier, I love people would always be like, hey man, do you tell people what you catch them on? And I'm like, I never lie about it. Never. I said, now I might not tell you, but most of the time I wouldn't tell you. But YouTube, and then being with Strike King and everything, and I've loved every minute of it, because the internet's a harsh place, right? And so when you talk about a bait, like we were talking about earlier about tips and tricks and all these, like, I see a guy on a bait, like, this is the best bait ever. And I'm like, well, I will never do that. All my YouTube videos, if I talk about a bait, it shows me catching fish on it. The thing I love about my YouTube of what I've gotten to do is that, like, okay, he does that. Well, yeah, he catches, we get to see the fish catches too. Oh, wait a minute. So he shows all his tournament footage? Man, he sure does throw Strike King everywhere he gets. Like, all of his footage is him throwing Strike King. I'm like, yeah. Like, I like the truth aspect of YouTube, because I'm like, I don't have to try to convince anyone anymore. Like, I don't have to try to sell my structure jig at Lake of the Ozarks when I'm going to show you 40 catches in practice and then all my fish catches in the tournament on it. And I'm like, that's why I think it's the best jig. And when all the money's on the line, I'm throwing it. And you're not, and regardless of whether I do good in the tournament, but it helps when I do good. That's what I like about YouTube, is that, like, I like the honesty that I can provide with it. I don't have to show everything, right? I don't have to show, if I caught him another tournament on something, I might not just show that tournament, right? But I'm honest about it. I'm like, hey, yeah. But at least here I'm like, no, but I show a lot of my tournament footage, like almost 90% of all of it, like all the tournaments I fish. So I like the fact that I can do that. I do like that part of YouTube, that I'm like, hey man, I can be real with it and honest with it. And, you either like it or you don't.
I think live changed bait manufacturers like that. Just simply there was companies and big companies that they had their niche and it's gotten to where people are like, oh, that's a knockoff. That's a knockoff. But part of that's live, because before guys used to throw whatever they wanted and then go up on the stage and be like, I threw this from the company they were sponsored by, but they didn't. Now live has actually made it so that the bait companies have to have a more well-rounded, like you have to have like your jig. You have to, like, you can't. I mean, this year at ICAST was hilarious. It was 78 different. I mean, it was literally just a lure with a just throw some skirts out there. No, it's wild. It's wild. We didn't run out of things to talk about. I literally had 2 things written down I was going to talk to you about, and we didn't even talk about that.
Well, they get out of school at 3. They all walked in. We are headed to San Antonio for some soccer.
I know. All right. Well, I've enjoyed our conversation.
Hey,
I'll keep these 2 questions for you the next time we do this.
Dang it, I was going to ask what they were.
What? Oh, you want them? You want them? Okay, if you can answer them quick.
No.
Castledine, quick.
I can't answer them quick. You want to wait?
That's true. That's fine. That's fine. We can wait. Okay. They're literally quotes that you have made, and I wanted you to expand on them. So I'll leave them in my little notes, and when we do this again.
Oh, yeah. Now I want to know.
Yeah. Okay. No, this is a great conversation. We talked about a lot of things, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was awesome. Anytime.
All right. We'll do it again.
Okay.
Thanks, Todd.
All right. See you, Dave.
If Todd Castledine thinks it, he says it, and I love that about him. I'm a big fan of a lot of the content he puts out. Not because I agree with everything he says, but because he makes me think. And in today's world, there's a lot of things that don't make you think. They're just pretty predictable. So thank you, Todd, for being you. I hope you've enjoyed this show. I need a hand from you guys if possible. I always ask you to like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. But in the last few weeks, our YouTube channel's traffic has kind of dropped. And we've gone through this before where, the algorithm gets pissy. And the only way to fix it is for you guys to continue to like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. So an extra special like, comment, subscribe, do a little something to help stroke the algorithm. And I would appreciate it. Got a big show coming next week and lots more to come. Have a great week. Enjoy Bean. And as always, Bob Cobb, take it away.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because Bob Cobb of the Bassmasters told you to. You hear?